Douglas, Arizona. Founded in 1905, it quickly became a bustling place with an economy fueled by copper smelters, agriculture, and border trade. Jewish merchants figured in the town's economic life from the get-go. By the 1920s, 65% of the stores in a 2-block stretch of G Avenue were run by Jewish entrepreneurs. Douglas even featured Arizona's only kosher restaurant. The Sons of Israel congregation established a cemetery to serve the Jewish residents of Bisbee and Douglas. The cemetery's first burial occurred in 1912. Its last in 1963. Then, for over 40 years, the cemetery was nearly forgotten. Weeds choked the grounds. Vandals toppled stones. And the Arizona sun and monsoon rains did their damage. Finally, Richard Rosen learned about the cemetery's plight from Jorge Ilitsky, whose relatives are buried there.
I went down there with my son Landon Rosen. When I walked on the cemetery grounds in my first visit, and every visit thereafter, I felt like an uplift. I remember landing in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, at the airport. And when the plane came down, I don't know if it was psychological, spiritual, or whatever it was as a Jewish person, I felt like a rising of lift, like a sense of something extremely special. And that specialness was something that just led me to say, wow, this is unique. And here it is in disrepair and so forth, but there's something very, very, how should I say it, righteous about the place. And then I felt, wow, this is something we should memorialize.
Rosen reached out to the Jewish Federation of Southern Arizona for help raising funds and organizing an effort to rehabilitate the hallowed grounds.
Stu Mellon was an amazing guy in terms of trying to get the funds together, people together, and all the cooperation with the various, many people, including the Historical Society. We began to focus on rehabilitating it and putting it back in shape as best we could.
But before any restoration work could begin, they needed a plan of action. A couple of Tucson architects answered the call.
I became involved in the cemetery project at the request of Saul Davis, who was the executive director of the Jewish History Museum at the time. And he had approached Ben Lepley, another architect here in town, and me to come up with a plan on a very low budget on how we could restore and bring dignity to this cemetery.
The cemetery was intentionally located outside Douglas in a remote desert area. It has 21 graves, which we confirmed with a radar survey. We wanted to preserve its frontier feel, and at the same time, we wanted to give it its own identity. We did that by installing a wrought iron fence around the perimeter and a wrought iron gate. We also provided a crushed stone driveway to allow maintenance vehicles to come in and out without driving on the plots. Ben fashioned steel supports for some of the tombstones to secure them and make it more difficult to topple over. During storms, rainwater sheet flows over the property. We built basins in the property to collect some of this water, and we planted indigenous landscaping. We also did a good deal of pruning and weeding and removed a number of dead plants and trash. The gate is left unlocked so people can come in and view the cemetery any time of the day. The cemetery has attracted many visitors who have left stones on the graves to mark their visits.
The restoration efforts made a profound difference, but more needs to be done to prevent the desert from reclaiming this sacred space.
This is the real concern. How do we keep it in shape? How do we do that? I've seen some cemeteries in different faiths which are so well manicured, so well maintained and kept after. But that requires resources or somebody to monitor it into the future, whether an organization, an agency, whatever is necessary. That's our goal.
And you can help reach this goal. with a tax-deductible contribution to help fund the perpetual care of the Bisbee-Douglas Jewish Cemetery.
It's a way of respecting the history of these frontier Jews. They came to Douglas, they created great businesses here. We have some very special members of that community that went on to become leaders in the general community in Arizona.
Why is preserving the cemetery important to me and to the Jewish faith? We have a section at certain Jewish holidays called Yizkor. Yizkor means to remember. To remember the history is very, very important. To remember what was. It's a part of our faith. It's a part of recognizing that life was, but the death does not mean necessarily the end of our knowing of that individual as these stones are marked appropriately. So that's what it's about. And it's also sanctification of a person's life as well. What you're doing when you assist and help by donation, this is a mitzvah actually. It's a do-good. It isn't a profit-making deal. This is a memorializing history, keeping history alive.
Your tax-deductible donation will help keep Arizona's frontier Jewish history alive for generations to come. Make your contribution to the Jewish Federation of Southern Arizona and designate it to the Bisbee-Douglas Cemetery. Thanks for your generous contribution.